This conference will now be recorded.
So today we have seen how to create services and also load balances, and then node ports, and we have seen the port and also the target port, and then the container port. Start with today. So let's see how to we create multiple containers. How to create multiple containers in a pod. Also, we'll see how to create multiple pods. And then we'll be moving on to the deployment types. Okay. So let's talk about this. So first move on to the multiple containers. So I'm going to create multiple containers in a pod, so which is a database container, also a Tomcat container. So for multiple containers works. Okay. So start our Kubernetes instance. That's master. So log say authentication key first. Okay. So this is a key, and then login. So go with user, and then create some scripts. Now go with create multiple containers. Yeah. So I'm going to create multiple containers, and then how do we create the multiple containers? So let's go with that. So this is what is method is. I'm going to create two different containers over here. One is a best container, other one's and and what is that? Yeah. So one is I'm creating a Tomcat container, and also other one I'm creating here it is a Mongo container. So and here you see that. So first we have we mention the version first. So with the API version. Let's go with API version. And that's a very good version. And also we do need to provide the kind. Kind is pod is the kind. So we are creating pods. Okay. Then so I'm creating an web server which is a web server container, which is Tomcat. And then, so for that, I'm giving some port number mapping. This is a container port number. And then, so that's image. That's image name is Tomcat. And then, so does Tomcat have any later tag? I think Tomcat has this tag. So because if you mention the tag, you can mention the tag name for the image. So I think it has a list. Okay. So it's volume name, and empty directory. Empty directory means it's an empty volume, has no data. And then so you mount the volumes here, and you can go with even Nginx. Okay, let's go with Nginx then. It's with Nginx. The image name is Nginx, and then go and add, let's say, Nginx, and so give a name to the container. That's Nginx container. That's my name of the container. And also I go with the name. That's my pod name. The pod name is, let's say, so multiple containers pod. That's my pod name. And the label, okay, also change the label name and give some different label name. So let's say multiple container label. Let's say that's my label name. And then so Nginx container, Nginx image, and then database. And so database name and image is, give a database name container. Let's say database container. Okay. And image is Mongo is image. We know Mongo. We already have launched in Docker. And the ports. So DB port and then port number for Mongo, it's 27018. Right. But so go with first kubectl apply. And then so which one it is, which is your multiple containers, YAML. Okay. Something must be, okay, we haven't mentioned the file name, right? So -f, that is what is missing. -f. Okay. So something went wrong, something mapping values are not allowed in the context, something mapping value. Where is that? It's line 4, it says. So what is that mapping value? Let's see. At line 4, okay. Labels, and then label name here. Labels, label name. Okay. So say what was missing was, let me show you from yesterday's example. I just go with yesterday's example, something like for service, the label. Okay. So labels and then label name. So name and then label name. So they should be in the same alignment. That is what is missing. Okay. With that, that's label and then name must be in the same alignment. So that is what is missing. I had some, so starting from here, so it has to be somewhere in the same alignment, name as well as labels. So that is what is missing. Save it. kubectl and apply -here and then your file name kubectl. Error passing again, line 3 mapping values not allowed in the context. So what is going wrong? So just looking at the
Excuse
error,
me, sir.
it says line
I
3.
think you haven't mentioned the metadata.
Oh, correct. Yeah, that is what is missing. Good. Correct. So we haven't mentioned metadata. Correct. So metadata and then mention the name and then labels. Correct. 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 So and then run that. Yeah. So now we have a pod created. So that's our pod, and which has multiple containers running in it, and you can see that kubectl and then get pods. So it is multiple containers. It is some error, but it will be restarted. Okay, it keeps restarting it. Right. So, so what I be looking here is, so let's look at that kubectl and then so describe pod, and the pod name, describe it. Let's describe that. Okay. So Nginx started. Okay, fine, access successfully pulled, and images have been successfully pulled. So it will be starting the containers. Okay, backing up, then it will be restarted. So you can mention that. So you can see here successfully pulled image, and then so do we have multiple containers running in it? Let's see. So of course I can see here in the description that I can see, and also you have, I can show you this once. So that is your database container. You see that that's my database container. Also you have that's Nginx container. So in the same pod we have both containers are running. So in the same pod we have both containers. Okay. Well, then mount. Okay, that's so that was all mounted, and then okay, and this container is successfully running. See the container status, it is successfully running, and then so now why that Nginx is failed. So why it is failed Nginx. So it is state is terminated, and why that is terminated, reason is error. So what it is restarted from it, see that it is automatically restarting. But anyway, so find here, so again same one. So why this is failing? Is it because of the port numbers? I think I use those port numbers already. I think so. That might be a reason. Let me change the port number. Okay. That could be a reason. Share data, and I've changed the port number, so that will be helping us. So okay, then again go with kubectl, apply hyphen here, and then here. That's a failure. Let's find out why it's a failure. So arguments working directory, port numbers, and the host port, PS port, host port number, and identical fields. There's something called identical fields. So database, image, Mongo ports, DB port, host port number, container port, protocol, mount. Okay. So read only. Okay. Well, so what is happening is I think we have changed the pod information, the configuration file information. It is creating a new pod, but the pod is failed to update. So may not. So why it's a failure? I think that is because of volumes and the directory all good. Well, I think it's better we just remove directory, remove the pod. You'll get pods. I remove the pod again. I tried that. Okay, so just remove it and then again we can try it. kubectl and then delete pod and the pod name. Delete the pod. So we can try to create that kubectl. Then apply hyphen here. Now this is created. I can try with kubectl get pods. So it is creating the container. Okay, so it will be created. So that happened just because of might be. So there are some port number issues. I changed the port number of it. So once I change the port number, now it is creating the container. So it is all good. So very simple. So here you mention as usual. So first you mention the container details of the first container. Then, so if you want to mount some volumes, attach volumes, those, and then you have databases container, and for that you mention that. So database name and image. Okay. But both containers will be running on a same pod, and that too under the same label, right? It's the same label. Of course, they are on the same pod, okay? Then they'll be under same. Now, what you can try with this example is, so try to create. Now, my file has two different containers, right? Okay. So, but what do? You just create the first one, which is Nginx container, under one pod, and database under another pod. Okay. but both labels should be matched. So yesterday I was creating that, right? So I've created first service one, okay, pod service, right? Service one, and then so you have your, then I have created my, so which one, service port. Okay, there it is. But for these two ones, so first one is for service, okay, and the label name is the same label, right? So label name is same. You try the same example now. So you launch those two containers in different pods with same label matching. And once after that is done, and what do? For the Nginx one, you're going to create a service. And even for the service, you launch that service under node port service, but the service also must be under same one. Like you can use the same configuration file anyway. You can use same service file, but you can just change the port numbers. Don't go with the same port numbers, change the port numbers, node port numbers, change it, and target port numbers can be also changed. Okay, well, and port numbers. So all these ones change them, and then the new ones, new label must have these three. So once you create that, your label must have these three. So your label must have these three running, your service running, and then your Nginx pod running. Also, you have so MongoDB pod. So these three must be running in a same label. So I've shown you now. So running both of them on the same pod, but you run them on the different pods. Okay. And then, so let me give you, this is one scenario. This is one scenario. That's your scenario one. Okay. And then now you take the same example which we have tried in Docker. So in Docker, I have launched two particular Mongo images, right? You remember? One is for client, other one is for so server. Now you launch these two. So pod one, you can say for client, and you go with client, and next you have pod for this server. Okay. So you just try this, and then after that, you log into the server pod or client pod. You log into the client pod, and from there, so you try to run that. Hope you remember the command. So Mongo, and then your service name, okay, service name, and then the port number. But this service is for server. Okay, so from the client, you run this. Are you able to ping it or not? Let's yesterday, I've given you an example. So what did we do yesterday? First, I have created a service pod also and Nginx pod. Then after that, I've used an Ubuntu pod, and then from that Ubuntu, I was pinging my Nginx. Try the same thing. Are you able to do it or not? Okay. Now, so try that, but everything has to be exposed to a service. Without service, so nothing can be done. Okay, remember that. And so in this case, in this example, you can use port numbers, of course. That's port number because this is within the cluster. But if you want to read from outside cluster, you can use node port. So you can launch even multiple containers in a same pod. But how about, can we launch multiple pods and within the same label? Okay. For one container, can we do it? Yes, we can also do that. So here we go with creating multiple pods. Now, how do we create? See, when you say multiple pod means these are not different pods. So we have replicas. So we have replicas. So I want to create pod 1 and pod 2, pod 3, where these are all same, which are replicas. So if you want to create replicas, then you can use replication controllers. Replication controllers. So with the help of replication controls, you can create some multiple pods. So now the part we have seen, so far we have gone through services as a type. Okay. We've gone through different kinds. So what are the kinds we have gone through so far? We've gone through pod kind. Also, we have seen the service kind. Now we're going to look into replication controls. Okay, let's talk about that kind. How do we create it? The kind will be replication controllers is the kind. Let's go with that kind. So go with insert, and here you can see that kind is replication controller, and that's metadata name. Okay, let's change the metadata name. Let's say so. Let's say multiple replicas. You can say multiple replicas or multiple containers. Okay, and then so then in the specifications mention how many replicas you like to create. I like to create 2 replicas. But so we have a template, and why we have a template in replication controller? Since I'm creating 3 different pods, 3 different replicas, all these replicas will be having same templates used. So what is my template is, under that you mention your template, your pod details. Okay, this is your metadata, and this is your template information. Okay, and then we have label, and this is my replication controller. Okay, so I would say Tomcat. So let's say Tomcat, and then I will give a name here. So replication controller, something. That's my replication controller name. And then labels, that's a label. And then you have specifications, you have containers, then name of the container you're creating, and then image, then port numbers. Okay, that's container port number. So it's all same, but the only thing is we have replicas, replication controllers. So CTL apply, yeah, then go with, so which one that was, multiple pods. Okay, hyphen here, multiple pods. Okay, kubectl apply. So multiple replicas created, which is a replication controller. So kubectl and get pods. Okay, so which one that is? That's multiple replicas. That is my multiple replicas. We have one, and we have second one. Also, we have third one. Or instead of doing it, we also have a command called kubectl. So get replication controllers. I think we have replication controllers. Okay, that is my replication control, multiple replicas. You can see that desired, how many are required, desired status is, and how many currently running. So 3 running. So how many are ready? So all 3 are ready. So let's log into the node and let's find that. So are these 3 are running successfully. So log into the node. It's my node. It's 1 second. So go with Docker PS. Like to show you that. So there you have multiple replicas. Okay, and we have these three. First one, second one, also third one. Okay, so and look at them. So we have all three are running. So we have all three are running. And so these works like an individual pod. Now you can see that kubectl, and then so describe, so replication controller, and we describe it, let's see, and then replication controller, and then replication controller name, describe. So we have, now I can describe then how many replicas, three replicas, how many running and how many waiting. These are the three pods. Okay, so we have three different pods. Now, so can I, yes, okay. So what if I stop the pod? Okay, let's stop the pod. So let's take this pod. Okay, let's take the pod. If the pod is stopped, then we'll see the status. What will be the status of it? Is my replication controller will take care of so creating the pod automatically. So let's find out. Now I'm going to so stop this one RKC21. Okay, so this stop it, which is RKC21. That's the one, and then that's my pod. And go with Docker stop and enter. So RKC21, that was being stopped. Okay. Now let me again go with Docker PS. Okay. So now see that status is so created about 7 seconds ago. Now look at the desired status and also the current status. Again describe. Okay. So we have right RKC21. It is still successfully created. Yeah. So this is the advantage of running creating a replication controllers. Well, now what if, let's go with that replication controller manifest. This is the manifest. I'm going to change my Tomcat.
Excuse me, sir.
So go with the Tomcat one and change the version. Change the version. I'm going to change the tag. So let's change the tag, the image, and then the tag. What is the tag for the Tomcat? Let's go with it. So load it.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, why are we creating multiple pods, sir? Do you mean that we can deploy the same application in multiple pods and use it instead of one pod? Is that the significance? Or?
That's what we have done, right?
Sir?
So yeah, right. Well, so now I'm going to change it. So I'm going to change my tag. So I would go with, let's say, probably I will try that tag, change the tag here, JDK16. Go with that JDK16, changing the tag of it, JDK16, okay. And then save it. Now, so let's find out if I go with kubectl, apply icon here. Now I'm going to apply that. So which is configured, right? Now that is configured now. So since it has been configured, I want to see kubectl. So get replication controllers. So replication controllers. So describe can describe that. Okay. And when I go with describe, just describe. Okay. Now I want to see that image. So whatever has been used, I want to see the image here. So now this is the image is changed. Right. So image is, we have a new version, new tag. That image is running on my replication controllers, all three replicas. Okay. So for example, if we take our previous Docker file, okay, I have done some changes in my Docker file, and then the Docker file I have pushed it onto the registry. Then that image I'm going to pull it for the new JDK version, new versions or new tags. Then you'll be having, just go to the configuration file and then you modify the configuration, modify the tags, and then you just run it, and then you have your new configuration is done in the on your all three pods, which is all three replicas. Okay, but is there any possibility that, so say every time if you want to do the new deployments onto those pods, so what we need to do, so we need to modify the configuration file, open our configuration file, and then you modify the changes in your tag numbers. But is there any possibility that I want to do some new deployments or change the tags? I have some new tag number, new image, and that tag I want to deploy onto my pods without changing the manifest. So how do I do that? So here we go with deployment types. So the kind I'm using so far here is replication controller. So that is what I'm using. Okay, and also we have used pods, and then we have also used services. Okay, now I would be going with the type kind is deployment type. Okay, let's go with the deployment type. How we can do that? So deployment, or what is advantage of deployment? The advantage of deployment is, without, for example, I have a new deployments, I have a new tags, then I want to roll out those deployments to those my pods without changing the configurations, without modifying my manifest. Right? We can go with deployment types. Okay, and moreover, the drawback with pods is whenever you stop the pod, pods sometimes won't be started automatically. Sometimes they won't be started automatically. But whereas deployment types will be started automatically, you don't need to start it manually. So due to some reasons, we have new pods, we have new versions, and we have deployed the new versions. Then automatically deployments will be automatically launched. Okay, so let me try that now. So go with the deployment types. So go with deploy.yaml. So everything is same except the kind will be changed. So we just go with the kind. So deployment is a option now. Go with the kind. Okay. So here you have API version. That's API version. Okay. And then kind is deployment and metadata. Okay, as usual. Just change the names of them. Let's say new Nginx deployment. new Nginx deployment. And then label, so give some label name, and then replicas. So how many replicas you can create? So it does not mean that deployment creates only one replica. No, within deployment you can have multiple pods. Okay, you can go with multiple. It does not mean that replication controllers only create multiple replicas. Deployment also create multiple replicas. But you must mention that under specifications you mention replicas. Deployment also creates replicas. Deployment also creates the pods. But what's the advantage? So without changing your configuration file, you can do the new deployments. You can roll out the new deployments. Okay. So, and as usual, we have replicas, controllers. Since we have replicas, you must have a template. Okay. So wherever you have the replicas, you create a template. The same template, so will be used by all the replicas. And then your specifications. Under specifications, you have containers, and the name, and then you have image. Okay, let's go with the image. So what is the image we have? I think we go with the latest one still. Go with the latest. Okay, and then what else? Now just say label. That's a label name, and then match label. Well, I think that will do. Container port. Okay, so ports. We go with the container port. Then save it. So let's kubectl and then apply -ef, and then so go with our deploy. Now your deployment is created. That's a new deployment. You can see that kubectl, and then so first we can go with the get pods. So that is a pod, nothing but a pod. Get pods, okay. And you can see new Nginx deployment. We have new deployments here. These are deployments, and then so try these deployments, kubectl and get deployments. Now that's our new Nginx deployment. We have a deployment. So now deployment is done, but so you also, after you run the kubectl deploy, okay, so you also run a command called roll over the deployment. There's a command called so get deployments. We have seen that. And then we have something else. We have roll out the deployments. So when you go with kubectl apply, so most of the time deployment will be rolled out. Okay, but if you see that deployment status is not ready, then you can run that. So roll out deployment. That is the command. Roll out deployments. So roll out status, and then your deployment name. So what is my deployment name is? So new deployment. Okay, now it has been successfully rolled out. Okay, and then go with kubectl, get deployments again, get deployments. So now it has been rolled out. Now it can be ready to use. So when we apply it, it is created. When you roll out, and you can check this rollout. Okay, so now what I will be trying, I will be going with, so creating these, setting up the new images. So what is the image we have in our manifest? The image we have here is in the manifest. So what is the image? That's our Nginx image. Okay, that's Nginx image. Then, so to that image, if I change the version, okay, I mean the tag, then it will be changing. It will be configuring it again. But so without configuring, can I create a new, when I roll out the new deployment? Firstly, I go with my Nginx. So where is my Nginx? And then go with the tags. So I go with something here. So we have Perl or something. You can take any tag, whatever the tag you like, just take a tag. So I will go with something, okay, some new tag. Let's say Alpine Perl, something. So I want to roll out this. I want to set the image. Once I set it, then I will be rolling out. Okay. So, and what is the command? That is kubectl set image and then the name. Okay. So go with that. Okay. kubectl set image and then so image and then deployment. I'm setting the image for this. You see that what I'm trying to do, I'm setting the image. kubectl set image and then your so deployment name. My deployment name was that's my deployment name. Okay, and then nginx plus so whatever the image tag, go with the tag. The tag is okay. So Perl something. What was that? Alpine Perl. Right. Go with Alpine Perl. That's my new tag. That. So enter. Now deployment image is updated. You see that it is updated. Okay. So in the previous examples, so we have seen it is been configured. Now it is updated. But did I change my configuration file? So where was my configuration file? So that's my configuration file. So I haven't touched my configuration file. Without touching your configuration file, we have done a new deployment. Okay. If this was a pod, can I do this? I cannot do this. The reason is I'm setting the image for the deployment. Okay. Since I've been setting the image for the deployment, it is deployment. And you can only use this command for deployment purpose only. Okay. So it's only for deployment purpose. Then I want to check this kubectl and then so the new image has been rolled out. So what we need to roll out first, we have set the image, but it is been rolled out. So we need to roll out again. So you can go with rollout. Okay. So automatically that is rolled out, but still you can check the status if you want. kubectl rollout status. Now that is successfully rolled out. You can check the status. But when you set the image, automatically that is rolled out. You don't need to roll out manually. Even when you apply that manifest file, that is automatically roll out. But still, if you want to see that the rollout took successfully or not, you can go with rollout status. Okay. And then go with kubectl and then get pods. Now check these pods. Okay, these are the new pods. I just want to describe the pods, or we can describe even deployment itself. That is also correct. But go with describe pods. Describe pods and then pod name. So just I want to find out the image. Yes, I got the new image. So we have new image. Okay. Or else you want to go with kubectl logs and then your pod. Sorry, pod word. It was pod, right? So I want to go with the pod kubectl logs. Sorry, kubectl logs and then pod name. Okay. So now this has been configured and then completed the startup. Okay. So that is your pod log. You can see here. So it was empty, and then we have something, some enable listeners. So you have a default file. Then you can look into that kubectl and describe deployment. Then the deployment name, new, what was name? So nginx, new nginx deployment. new engines deployment. Okay. Okay, that's our new deployment. You can see the name here itself for the I have used for the deployment. Okay. Now, as usual, you want to expose them to some port numbers, so you can also expose them. Okay, using those. Either you can use the commands or you can use those CTL and then expose and then expose. So let me go to the command again. So we have used that in the first session. You can go with expose. Scroll down. Okay. So that's the command. Now expose pod and then so I need the pod name. Just a second. And hyphen type equals to no port. Sorry, it's not important. It's a deployment. Okay, let's try with the deployment. Now the deployment has been exposed as a node port. Okay, you can see that kubectl and then so and get services. So that's our service, and what was the service name? That's our service name. Okay. But I want you to try the same thing. So with the help of what we call services. Okay, and in this file, what do you do in the deployment file? We have mentioned the label name, right? So mention the label name, and then the same label you also provide that for your so this is a pod, right? I think we have something called so which one that was service port. Okay, in here you mentioned that so take the service file, you mention the service file name as name is just give some nginx. Okay, nginx, right? And now we just again go with that kubectl and then apply hyphen f your deployment. So it has been configured, right? Now you can describe that kubectl and so describe and then so deployment and then the deployment name. That's my deployment name, and find out so that should be under that label anyway. That's our image and that's the label. Okay, it's a label, and then so now that is also has a node port. Okay, so you can use both ways, right? You can use both ways, or else now here you can go with the service call. So I'll just go. I've done that for node port. Or else you want to go with the load balancer service, go with load balancer. So you can type load balancer. Let's capital something. Second. So we need to provide some port numbers, of course, for that. Load balancer. Okay. So try that command. So we can provide the port numbers and all these things. Okay. So what was that? Let's go with the name and then expose. And so what I want to expose, I want to expose my deployment. So I haven't mentioned again the same thing. Forward expose and then deployment. It's already exist. It's already exist. Okay, fine. Service already exists. We change the service name then. Let's say new service. Okay. So that is when example is not done. That's okay. Don't worry about that. Error. That's okay. But is it exposed or not? That is been exposed. Okay. And then so going with now, check this service, gives it here and get so services. I can see our new service. Example service still it's pending, but once it is ready, it will be ready to use. Okay. So see finally, so whatever it is, like whether you go with the deployments and then pods, so whatever that service type, whatever the pod type is and kind type is, it has to be exposed. But so the best way to expose them is first create a service, create them under some label, and once it's created, and then you create a pod manifest, and then you run that in the same label. Then so if you want to mention some port numbers, in yesterday's example we have done it, mention the port numbers, and all these port numbers will be mapped to the service. So that is the pod actually. Okay, the pod, you can expose the pod, you can expose the so deployment as well, and you also try with replication controls. Okay, so try that replication control, expose that. So expose, instead of saying expose, just do this. So create service, create services. So for all of them, replication controls, controller, and also try with deployments. Okay. And you might have already created for pods, so try that for pods and find out, so are you able to access these ones from outside after exposing them. So try with node code, and so try with load balancer. Okay, so try with these services. Okay. So I want to try cluster IP. Cluster IP is anyway it's for local only. Try with these two, and even the port numbers. Okay, try with the port numbers, port number mapping for them. Port map. So try these ports, and these 3 ports. So all these 3 ports, try these ones. Okay. Right. Yeah. Thank you. Any questions?
Sir, excuse me, sir. Hello, sir. Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, I can't hear you. Can you please bit louder?
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yeah, I excused.
Sir, what is the rollout, sir?
So once you have a deployment, okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you need to roll out the deployments. Rollout means setting up the deployment. Get your deployment ready.
Okay, sir. Sir, expose.
Expose is a service.
Okay, sir. Is one
Rollout
of the
means
service.
get your deployments ready. Once your deployment's ready, you can expose that.
Okay, sir.
Sir, sir,
Yeah.
sir, API version colon V1 అని ఇస్తున్నాం API version యాప్ /V1 అని ఇస్తున్నాము సార్ డిఫరెన్స్ ఏంటి సార్
Yeah. So for deployment, so you need to go with API versions. So API managers support the deployments. So it's like
Okay,
you go with it's like a normal V1 version. But when you go to API and then V1 version, and API has versions, VI versions. So those APIs have V1 versions. Those API supports the deployment types. Normal V1 versions does not support it. API versions V1 supports it because it's a deployment. So since you're going in the deployment, so API supports the deployments.
Okay, sir. In manifest, we have the DNS policy in default. What is that?
It's a DNS policy. So if you want to go with your DNS, so we also have a service called DNS service. So you want to create a domain name for that. Okay. If you want to create a domain name, you can go with the domain. But if you want to create a domain name, you need to provide the domain names there. But if you don't want to go with the domain name, go with the default one.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'll see you on Monday.
Tomorrow, sir?